Well, hello again, YouTube. Petey Twofinger here. My voice just cracked. So, update on the Acid Casualty series. Perhaps my favorite episode, Craig Smith, Matreya Kelly. There is a podcast. Let's see. It's the name of the channel is Get It on Vinyl, no spaces. So, Get It on Vinyl channel has a waxcast. These are vinyl record proponents. It's a couple of guys that look like brothers. This is number 25, an interview with Mike Stax. Now, Mike Stax is the author, and now he is label mate with Craig Smith's brother Gary. They've started a record label in honor of Craig Smith, Matreya Kelly, who passed away, and they've collected a bunch of acetates, demos that he made that were never released, remastered those and put those out in a gatefold vinyl with 5,000 word essay and a bunch of information that's not in the book, and a bunch of photographs that are also unreleased. So Mike Stax, he is a rock and roller in the truest sense of the word. I always say that about Mike. I actually I didn't meet him, but we had contact through email. He has a band called The Loons with his old lady. They do like authentic psychedelic rock. And he also has it's called Ugly Things, and that's a blog. I believe it started out as a zine, and he's been doing that for at least 15 years up. I shouldn't say that. It's probably something like 30. Knowing Mike Stax, he is an author and a rock and roll entrepreneur, you could say. So Mike discovered in the early Y2K this music of this person, Matreya Kelly. His real name is Craig Smith. That story is in the Acid Casualties series that I did. Again, I know I've brought this up so many times, but I had a comment, and it was someone who I respected, a fan, Quicksilver Fan 69 is the guy's name, and he said, "Hey, you missed one. It's Craig Smith, Matreya Kelly." And my initial aspect is when someone says, "Hey, why don't you do another episode or something about continuing that series?" It kind of gets my goat, and I go to tell them, "Hey, the series is over." And but I didn't do that in the case of Quicksilver Fan 69 because he had left some positive comments, and I knew he wasn't a goof. Just looking at his name, Quicksilver Messenger Service, a real deal, kind of undergroundish. Not everybody knows him. Psychedelic band from San Francisco, I believe. And I went ahead and typed those. Plus, Craig Smith / Matreya Kelly, like. That just sounded like the real deal, something straight out of the 60s. And of course, when I looked into it, that led me to the work of Mike Stax and his book, Swim Through the Darkness, which is the definitive tale of Craig Smith. It's a very detailed, excellent book that goes way back and tells the whole story and really wraps up the ending where we don't really have there's 7 episodes of Acid Casualties. One of those is myself, so that doesn't count. I got sick when I wrote this. And really kind of the point of the series was that we can't always just blame LSD, that these people were more than likely suffering from mental illness, undiagnosed schizophrenia, or something else was going on. So that's kind of the point of the story, is that while we don't really know that much about psychedelics, and it might not be the best choice for people to be playing around with that if they have a history of mental illness or they're in unstable conditions, unstable time of their life, we can't necessarily blame this chemical as it's been demonized in the past. These cases of 60s acid casualties, when you actually read the story, there's a lot more to each person's story just than they were completely fine, rock solid, stable people they took this drug and immediately went nuts for the rest of their life, because that is kind of how it's been painted. So this Acid Casualty series came out of my love for these stories, because I've always been fascinated by people who make music, especially good quality rock music, which is an enigma in itself, I will say. But really those people that paid the ultimate price playing around with psychedelic drugs. I really have always been drawn to those stories. And Mike did such a wonderful job with the book. I had contacted him and asked permission, because in all the other cases, like I was trying to get at and make this point, we don't really have much of a summation of exactly kind of why it all went down. And then also wrapping up the end of the story with something that kind of feels good, that isn't so dark and depressing. So that's why episode 7 is my favorite. I really like the Skip Spence episode too, as well, I should say. I really like the Vince Taylor episode. It seemed to me that the episodes where I didn't know anything about the person, like I already knew who Peter Green was. I didn't so much know that what had happened with him at the Illuminati party in Germany. I didn't know about that, but I knew who Rocky Erickson was. I knew that whole thing. I knew all about Syd Barrett. So I think if you're the type of person that's going to not want to click on one of these stories because you've never heard of the person, that you're really doing yourself a misservice. And I see that in a lot of people. I see people, I'm constantly coming out and saying, you should really watch the whole series. And I get a comment back from people saying, oh, I've turned so many people on to Rocky Erickson, and you did a good job with the thing. Like, it's the worst episode, Rocky Erickson. It's garbage. Next to Syd Barrett, it's probably even worse, the Syd Barrett episode. And I'm a Pink Floyd guy. So what I'm getting at is there's an update to this story. You should definitely check out the Waxcast 25 interview with Mike Stax. You get to see Mike speak on this. I will link that in the description. So go ahead and check that out. And if you're a fan of the series, if you've already checked out all of the episodes and you've listened to the music, because that's another thing. I don't really recommend a lot of the music. I figure people can kind of find that on their own if they're interested. There is an unreleased, or a kind of a post Acid Casualty song on the Vince Taylor episode that's kind of long. I really like that piece. Up until we get into the Skip Spence episode. And then I highly recommend this album called Ore. Ore is unbelievably great. Definitely got to check that out. More Ore is a cover album that came out in the 90s. Beck and Robert Plant, some bigger name people, paying homage to Skip Spence's Ore album. But the real meat and potatoes, the real good music that you never heard of, is all in the Craig Smith, Matreya Kelly episode 7 that Mike Stax brought to me. I contacted him via email. He sent me a package of photographs, some music, and the book in a PDF form. So I dove in and read that book cover to cover in one sitting and put together the episode, which includes a lot of the music that Craig Smith and Matreya Kelly put out. But there's so much more to that. I mean, it's just a fraction of it in the episode. So there's 2 albums. Then there's the Penny Arcade album. And now there is another album that came out, which is called Love is Our Existence. and that is under Craig Smith / Matreya Kali, and it's released on this label started by Gary Smith, Craig's brother, and Craig. And I'll leave all the rest of that information, that story to be told. You could just check it out from Mike himself. Go over there. So this is for Quicksilver. I wasn't aware if you had checked this out, were aware of this. I was, as I do, I go and check these stories out. I see, is there anything new that came out? Because as time passes, you know, people are going to be passing away. Relatives of these people are going to pass away, and their estate's going to get gone through, and oh my goodness, here is a bunch of acetates of demos that they did, and that stuff's going to find its way out into our world, and you're going to be picking up on that on YouTube or through Google searches. So I wanted to post an update because that was the case. This is not a new video. This all went down in 2018, May 16th of 2018. So I would have to go back and look. I think 2016 was when I did the Acid Casualties series. So yeah, I missed out on that, but I'm real excited to check out Love is Our Existence. I had seen it, but I wasn't really aware of what it was, and now I find out Mike put it out, and it's legit. It's like, it's not going to have, I didn't know what it was. Is this some K-Tel thing? Is this some is it the same stuff that's on the other two albums, just repackaged? Because you run into that sometimes. So I guess I'm winding this video down. I will make one other recommendation while I got you here. If you're still listening to this, I can kind of, it's just me and you now. So the artist that I want to share with you today, he's a guy from ELO, if you remember, Electric Light Orchestra. He played a cello in the early iterants of ELO. Now this guy's a British multi-instrumentalist, producer guy. He went on to have some psychedelic rock albums under the name of Wizard. And then he went on to a solo career under the name of Roy Wood. And now this guy isn't an Acid Casualty, but he did produce some unbelievably great music. So if you've never heard of Roy Wood or Wizard, that's your bonus tip on the, what am I going to call this video? Acid Casualties Episode 7 update. So go and check out, when you're done looking into, you should just get the album. If you haven't got the book yet, buy the book and buy the album. Swim Through the Darkness by Craig Smith. You can go to uglythings.com and set yourself up, reward yourself with some really, really good treats. All right, you guys. Peace.